Hi folks, this video is going to be digging into chapter 2 of Brave New World. I'm on the screen, you'll see a copy of the digital copy of Brave New World that is available for you on Schoology if you want to take a look around. But our work with this video is to give us some background understanding of the plot so that in class we can dig into nuances and text a little bit more closely in class together. So we are beginning with chapter 2. After learning in chapter 1 all about the process of reproduction in the world state, now chapter 2 moves on to teaching us about what to expect as infants and children are taught different things in this world. So we have in front of us some key things that we want to take a look at. Right off the bat, Henry Foster's been left off in the decanting room, or where the room where babies are embottled. And we are now in a space called the Infant Nursery and Neo-Pavlovian Conditioning Room. Now, we want to pay attention to this word neo. Neo is a suffix meaning new, and Pavlovian, if you've taken a psych class or an AP psych class, Pavlov should sound familiar to you. He put forth some theories about learning and how we learn things. And embedded in this video will be some questions, or will be another video from Ted Ed talking about the differences in conditioning and how we learn information, or how we learn new behaviors, rather. Not quite the same as what we learn as students, but how we can pick up on different behaviors and stimuli. So the director has these students in the infant nursery and neo-Pavlovian conditioning rooms, still in the same building that this hatchery is into. So they keep all of the embryos and developing babies and infants and children in one spot. And we'll see how that pans out. So we open in this scene with nurses setting out some supplies onto the floor. They're setting out flowers and they're setting out picture books for children. And this is part of a demonstration that the director of hatcheries and conditioning wants the students that he's giving a tour to see. So they set out books, they set out flowers, and a group of 8-month-old babies are literally wheeled in to this room for this demonstration. So you have 8-month-old babies, so they're less than a year old. They all look exactly alike, which means they're from a Bokanovsky group. And we've learned something else about how this society categorizes people. We find out that they are in the Delta caste, which means they're all wearing khaki. Each caste is going to have a color associated with it. So Deltas dress in khaki. Other castes will dress in other colors. So we'll want to pay attention to that color symbolism and what it might represent. These babies are then unloaded off of the cart, set on the floor, and just as independent babies want to do, they are ready to explore. Now, think about any time that you've had an interaction with infants. They are curious. They are interested in different things. They like to get into things because that's how babies are learning. So these babies are on the floor and they see the flowers, they see the books, and immediately they're drawn to them. They're drawn to the colors, they're drawn to the images, they're excited, they're ready to go explore. So these babies are crawling towards these materials on the floor. The director of hatcheries and conditioning gives a signal to the head nurse, and she flips a switch. And that first switch causes a blaring alarm to go off. The babies are startled. They start crying because they've been scared. Then, once these babies are crying, the director has the head nurse flip another switch and is now shocking these babies through an electrocuted panel in the floor. So not only are they crying in fear, but now they're crying out in pain. And these are 8-month-olds being electrocuted for trying to play with flowers. And so we see a lot in terms of word choice that indicates these kinds of things. We see words like shrieked. We see the words like distorted and terror that all give this sense of pain, anxiety, discomfort, fear, that those words, when associated with 8-month-olds, would typically elicit from us a much more sympathetic response. I know a lot of you are probably thinking, this is messed up. They are electrocuting 8-month-olds. Not okay. Remember, dystopia is a social commentary. So this is a satire. It's meant to make things seem really overblown and overdramatic. So we want to pay attention to why. When the director of hatcheries and conditioning has decided it's enough, he explains that in doing this, they're teaching these babies new behaviors. They're conditioning them to believe a certain thing so that after a few repetitions, and he even says after 200 repetitions of this particular lesson or another similar lesson, the babies will then develop what he calls an instinctive hatred of books and flowers. So that this becomes a reflex for them, so that then as adults, they're not thinking about it, they just really don't like it. Think back, you might have had an experience when you were a young child that made you dislike certain things. Maybe you had a bad experience with a dog and now you are scared of dogs. It usually doesn't take 200 repetitions of this kind of a lesson to make something like this stick. It's already very impactful on the babies as the director shows them flowers once more and they immediately start crying. This is building into that idea of like how we learn behaviors, how we learn information. And he talks about why they would want to train or condition these lower castes to feel a certain way about flowers and books. They're looking for things that will not waste the time of these lower castes that would cause burdens on the society as a whole. So books, why read books? It takes time away from the work that they could be doing. And flowers, why should they spend time out in nature enjoying it? He does tell us that things have shifted over time. About 100 years before, the lower castes were conditioned to really like the outdoors, but they started spending all of their time out there and they wouldn't get their work done, so they had to make some adjustments. So he starts to tell, the director of hatcheries and conditioning begins to tell these students a story of little Reuben. And little Reuben, this story helps set up for us another way that this world is maintained through conditioning.